Peace, Father Divine, peace, Mother Divine, and peace to the universal family of God. Today we have 10 more letters written by Father Divine in the 1940s, focused on the theme of making democracy real in the United States. These letters are historically very important, but they're also prescient and timely, perhaps seemingly even more relevant for the issues that face the country today than at the time they were written. Father did write on many topics, and the channel will eventually include letters on many other subjects. But because of the times we're living in, I have chosen to emphasize democracy in recent letter postings. A reminder that the letters that appear on the screen are original carbon file copies of Father's outgoing letters. The outgoing letter would have been on letterhead and signed by Father. Peace, the 16th of September, 1941, ADFD, Father Divine writing to Dr. WWII Fulks of Andros, Bahamas. My dear Dr. Fulks, I received your letter of the 5th and the enclosures representing the payments you made several years ago. According to your request to include the receipts under Righteousness Marches On, I am forwarding them to the New Day Publishing Company. The letters that appear in facsimile form wave aside any and every thought or statement of a skeptic or unbeliever that the specific payments mentioned were not genuine. They not only establish the fact that the kingdom of heaven is being materialized on the earth, but that it is being legalized among men. They bespeak activities of a righteous government and prove to the world, even as it has long since been written, the throne shall be established in righteousness. As my spirit has reached out to contact you, mentally and spiritually, and has given you a new hold on life, causing you to forsake your sins and live righteously, soberly, and godly in this present world, it is revolutionizing the consciousness of all people, whether they are conscious of it or not. I work contrary to the objectives of those who make people war-minded. I make people God-conscious. The psychology of the propagandist, the subversive troublemakers, is to stress the minds of men with thoughts of war, of racial division, and ideologies of autocratic rule. The gigantic agencies of the press and radio amplify their endeavors until the masses begin to direct their activities in the preparation and defense of war. But I mention this to any, the power that fills all space and is absent from none, is beneath, above, and all around to destroy the subversive elements of the human mind. One has vividly said, "For what is a man profited if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Or what shall a man give in exchange for his soul? Every man shall be rewarded according to his works." Hence the builders of an unjust throne shall lose both soul and throne, for the kingdom of righteousness is coming into power through and by the psychology of the propagandists. The spirit of righteousness, of justice and truth is entering into the hearts of men. It is controlling them in all their affairs, building up a power that none can defeat. This is the kingdom that you are representing as you follow me in spirit and in truth, and give your life in consecration to the cause of righteous government, to the cause of a universal democracy. Only joy, peace, health, and happiness can be your portion as you substitute honesty for dishonesty, equity and square dealing for graft and greed, and love in the place of hate. In my spirit and my mind I would that all might stand, that all might become to be as this leaves me, as I am well, healthy, joyful, peaceful, lively, loving, successful, prosperous, and happy in spirit, body, and mind, and in every organ, muscle, sinew, joint, limb, vein, and bone, and even in every atom, fiber, and cell of my bodily form. Respectfully and sincere, I am Reverend M.J. Divine, better known as Father Divine. Peace. The 12th of July, 1943, ADFD. Father Divine writing to Miss Minnie Adelschick, Social Services Director of the Newark Beth Israel Hospital, Newark, New Jersey. My dear Miss Adelschick, your letter of the 10th is at hand, and I am glad to know that you have received a donation of $10 from one who is endeavoring to follow my teaching, to cover a debt he is owed to a party whom he can no longer locate. The effectiveness of democracy can be seen in the prosperity, happiness, freedom, and peace my true followers enjoy. Likewise, the degree of the enactment of democracy can be measured by the degree of happiness, freedom, prosperity, and peace all mankind enjoy. When you see men living in poverty, subject to sickness, diseases, disappointments, and failures of every kind, you can analyze and prove the law of democracy to your own satisfaction, for where such conditions exist, you will find a lack of democracy in evidence. Americanism, democracy, or Christianity, for the three are one, will lift men off the relief rolls and out of vice and crime, for it establishes firstly a spiritual independence which brought to fruition is materialized as economic, social, political, religious, and financial liberty. Father says Americanism, democracy, or Christianity. Just to note here that on other occasions he also said true Judaism, true Buddhism, and on at least one occasion true communism are one with Americanism and democracy and true Christianity. Continuing, you see men at times going around in lax wants and limitations, claiming to be Christians and subjects of democracy, but when you weigh the situation accurately, you will find that they are bound by alien versions, ideas, and opinions that are unchristian, undemocratic, and un-American. They violate the laws of God, biblically and constitutionally given to humanity, by segregating, discriminating, and hating their fellow men without a just cause, and yet go around in misery, wondering why their bodies and affairs are subject to infirmities. Hatred, division, and strife will corrupt an individual or a nation and cause the death of either. Hence, Americanism as I enact it is teaching the world mental sanitation, whereby their physical bodies prosper even as their material affairs. I am awakening the children of men into the realization that a utopian government is established not by chance or the desires of men, but by adherence to the principles of righteousness, and by bringing these principles to fruition individually, severally, and collectively. I stress these principles because this is the only way to a lasting peace, whereby all humanity can become to be even as this leaves me, as I am well, healthy, joyful, peaceful, lively, loving, successful, prosperous, and happy in spirit, body, and mind, and in every organ, muscle, sinew, joint, limb, vein, and bone, and even in every atom, fiber, and cell of my bodily form. Respectfully and sincere, I am the Reverend M.J. Divine, better known as Father Divine. Peace. The 15th of June, 1942, ADFD. Father Divine writing to Mr. C.H. Brown, representing the Illinois Public Aid Commission, Chicago, Illinois. My dear Mr. Brown, your letter of the 8th is at hand relative to the payment of $51.91 by Miss Faith Umble for relief received many years ago before she became a follower of mine, for my real true followers will refuse to accept of relief in any form. I appreciate your acknowledgment of the remittance, as it is a pleasure to me to see the fruit of the rehabilitation of man's faith in man, in democracy, and in God. The oppressions of the oppressors of past and present decades have caused millions to feel that there is no God. They have concluded that since man is the master of his own fate, they can take the law into their own hands and create by violence at least a temporary happiness which has been deprived them by the administrators of law and justice. The lust for money and the un-American characteristics of graft and greed rampant in the land were not checked by the representatives of government. They have been the causes for violation upon violation of the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and the Bill of Rights. Because of these heaped up infringements on the rights of the people, the faith in the Word of God, "Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord," disappeared. Unconstitutional violences incited by labor unions, un-American agitators, and alien propagandists took the place of the hereditary faith in a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. They no longer believed the golden rule with arbitration could adjust the affairs of the people of this nation and produce brotherhood, unity, and harmony. Inequality, segregation, and division and strife became common, until even in this day prejudice and segregation are flagrantly in evidence in the capital city of this great nation. Such conditions not only in this country but in other countries brought on the world war and caused one to say, even at that time, "Let us build a government that will so exemplify Americanism that every human being will have what he needs and will refuse to take up arms again." Still, the administrators of this government failed to compel the enactment of the laws of democracy. The brotherhood of man still remained for the future to manifest and materialize. Therefore, honesty, competence, and truth could not be brought into actuality, for America had departed from the spirit and meaning of its God-inspired documents upon which this nation is founded. Prior to and especially since the World War, I have stressed the enactment of these great American documents as the only solution for world peace and the political, social, and economic redemption of all humanity. Fanatical and radical as it may sound, nevertheless I actually carried out the work of my mission in demonstrating a sample and an example of what the enactment of true Americanism would actually do for the people. In millions I produced the perfection of honesty, morality, and integrity by the simple method of creating and granting perfect liberty, equality, and justice as the Constitution and Declaration of Independence declare it. Therefore, millions have turned to real Americanism, as I have exemplified it, as the only hope for the perpetuation of civilization. Such acts of honesty as this one of which you have written me have given millions renewed faith in the brotherhood of man, the justice of democracy, and the reality of God. Thus, as I establish the spirit of this utopian government internationally, even as I have it jurisdictionally, I would that you and all humanity might become to be even as this leaves me, as I am well, healthy, joyful, peaceful, lively, loving, successful, prosperous, and happy in spirit, body, and mind, and in every organ, muscle, sinew, joint, limb, vein, and bone, and even in every atom, fiber, and cell of my bodily form. Respectfully and sincere, I am Reverend M. J. Devine, better known as Father Devine. Peace. The 9th of July, 1941, ADFD, Father Devine writing to Mr. W.C. Clark of the Southern Bell Railway Line in Shreveport, Louisiana. My dear Mr. Clark, the copy of your letter acknowledging compensation from one of my followers for a stolen ride on your lines 29 years ago is received. I appreciate knowing that Mr. Peace has fulfilled his obligation through this teaching of honesty. In comprehending my work and mission among men, one can readily see by the positive fruits of my activities that I am instilling the spiritual qualities of life into the hearts of men, to bring about a universal conversion of mankind and mankind's affairs. The profundity of my spiritual aims is not realized among the masses, but righteousness is marching on. Those who follow me, who read my words and imbibe my teaching continually, find me striking hard at mortality's versions and iniquities. Sin must go if justice is to prevail on the earth. It is for this cause that I am fulfilling the prayer of Jesus. I pray not that thou shouldst take them out of the world, but that thou shouldst keep them from the evil. And I am fulfilling that which I have long since declared. I will preach Christ in words, but more so in deeds and in actions, and I will put my Spirit in them and cause them to walk in my statutes. Millions are living clean, honest lives. They have become sober, righteous, and true. They are living these qualities, injecting them in their business and affairs. By their mental and spiritual reform, their social and business pursuits are transformed. Justice is the basis of their endeavors, and it is their political religion. Hence, it is plain to see concerning world chaos and confusion, its methods and systems of operation are not so much at fault, but the underlying principle or force that governs them is the evil to be rooted up. Socialism and communism today have gone far from the principle of true socialism and true communism. The fundamental basis of socialism is cooperation, and the established basis of communism is communionism, a communion of people in a communal or common interest of one and all concerned. Even the democracies of the world, though staunch in faith and principle, are overruled by dictator policies, money monopolists, warlords, and the like. Through my spirit and my mind, I am casting out the abominations of mortality, of carnality, of raciality, of all the perverted aims of humanity, and I am impregnating into the hearts of the people the spirit of brotherhood, of peace and faith. The lives of millions of my followers outpicture a true democracy, true social and community life. I am bringing people, as I have brought millions, on one common level with one common interest, a righteous government. My followers represent people of every nation, language, and tongue. They commune as one people at their private banquet tables. I have produced true socialism among them, that is, true cooperation, because I have brought them together in the unity of spirit, of mind, of aim, and of purpose. The business affairs of my followers express true Americanism. No graft or greed is practiced among them. No dishonesty, inequality, no bosses or profiteering is manifested in their affairs. True cooperation has proven the key to national and international peace, national and international security, and economic abundance. Much could be said in line with these things, but sufficient has been said, no doubt, to give you a slight sketch and a reflection of what I am establishing in your midst. We shall have a righteous government universally, and my program of righteousness, justice, and truth, worked out in the lives of millions individually and collectively, proves the solution to world peace and unity. With best wishes to you, desiring that you might be as I am, this leaves me well, healthy, joyful, peaceful, lively, loving, successful, prosperous, and happy in spirit, body, and mind, and in every organ, muscle, sinew, joint, limb, vein, and bone, and even in every atom, fiber, and cell of my bodily form. Respectfully and sincere, I am Reverend M.J. Devine, better known as Father Devine. Peace. The 25th of July, 1948 ADFD, Father Devine writing to Mrs. Mary Lewis of Los Angeles, California. My dear Mrs. Lewis, your letter of the 19th is at hand, and I am responding to say, you need not be concerned over the split in the Democratic Party, for it was not the Democratic Party, neither any other party, who has been responsible for the drafting of the President's Civil Rights Bill. My spirit brought that about as a direct response to my demand that the federal government cross every state line and break every state law that is unconstitutional, that will endorse murder, vice, and crime. Those who have withdrawn from the Democratic Party because they oppose righteousness, as I am establishing it, may not only be withdrawing from a party, but they may be withdrawing from life itself. I shall not give my spirit and my energy and my life to those who continue in vice and crime and sin and hatred and prejudice, and will not come nigh me to judgment. However, as my spirit and my mind have brought the enactment of the Bill of Rights thus far, I shall legislate every just and righteous principle of government. I do not have to depend on any political party, for I am not dependent on the ballot to accomplish my work and mission. Just as I have it on my immediate staff, and as you and millions of my followers all over the world are enjoying the reality of democracy now, so shall I have it universally for all who live. Hence, do not be dismayed at the affairs of men, for God is not only at the helm of this ship of state, but I am directing the affairs of all governments, and I shall turn and overturn until all mankind shall have this privilege of becoming to be even as this leaves me, as I am well, healthy, joyful, peaceful, lively, loving, successful, prosperous, and happy in spirit, body, and mind, and in every organ, muscle, sinew, joint, limb, vein, and bone, and even in every atom, fiber, and cell of my bodily form. Respectfully and sincere, I am Reverend M.J. Devine, M.S.D. D.D., better known as Father Devine. Peace. The 25th of March, 1943 ADFD. Father Devine writing to Mrs. Lucy C. Bell, supervisor of the Hillcrest Convalescent Home of Omaha, Nebraska. My dear Mrs. Bell, I appreciate your acknowledgement of a donation of $2.50 received from one of my followers as restitution for money found years ago, the owner of which he was unable to locate. The spirit of my mind which caused Mr. Sincere to make this restitution is eradicating Hitlerism from the hearts and minds of men, and it will eventually bring about the unity, harmony, and cooperation of all nations. This is it which all humanity desires, but we must first rid ourselves nationally of those who would oppose the enactment of democracy. By enacting it so effectively, they are compelled to follow suit. Constitutionally, every citizen of this nation is granted equality, and his unalienable rights are assured documentally. Nevertheless, if there are those in offices, as representatives of this government of the people, by the people, and for the people, who are not spiritually born of Americanism, they will try to uphold and impose their alien ideas of undemocratic oppression, inequality, and injustice upon the people, even as many have done and are doing. I have come to pass an adequate anti-lynching bill, and if I do not do it through the Senate and House of Representatives of this administration, I shall pass it in the hearts and minds of this people and cause them as one united body to compel the legal enactment of righteous legislation for the protection of American citizens. We cannot expect the world to accept of democracy such as we know true Americanism is able to give if the administrations of government and the administrators of Americanism leave loopholes for oppression, aggression, division, and strife to harass the people. But by the perfect enactment of Americanism as I have it under my personal jurisdiction, this nation will have the victory over every opposition and every enemy. Under the Peace Mission movement, we do not have separate churches for Americans, Chinese Americans, and Afro-Americans, but we are one united body. Those of every so-called race, color, and creed, and those of every nation, language, tongue, and people work together, cooperate together, and live together in a perfect expression of modesty, morality, harmony, and virtue. This is the way it should be throughout all civilization, and this is the way it shall be universally, as I advance this truth. For I would that all mankind might become to be even as this leaves me, as I am well, healthy, joyful, peaceful, lively, loving, successful, prosperous, and happy, in spirit, body, and mind, and in every organ, muscle, sinew, joint, limb, vein, and bone, and even in every atom, fiber, and cell of my bodily form. Respectfully and sincere, I am Reverend M.J. Devine, better known as Father Devine. Peace, the 28th of January, 1944 ADFD. Father Devine writing to Mr. Frank Berman of Bronx, New York. My dear Mr. Berman, your letter of the 26th is at hand, and I am responding to say, if every person within this nation would live exactly according to our fundamental documents of government, the Constitution and its amendments, and the Declaration of Independence, we would have a unified nation that would automatically eliminate the injustices of society. The material is the result of the mental and spiritual. In other words, the mental and spiritual must precede the material. Hence, it is necessary to unify humanity mentally and spiritually, and the outward manifestation of unity, brotherhood, and tranquility will automatically follow. There are many creeds, philosophies, theories, and ideas with which men have attempted to reform humanity, but only under the reality of a democracy can the unity necessary to establish economic security be realized. However, mankind had never seen the reality of a democracy until I brought it into expression under the jurisdiction of my spirit and my mind. Millions shout Americanism, wrap themselves in the Constitution, and wave the American flag. As one compatriot has stated it, yet they introduce poll taxes, legalize crime by legalizing segregation and prejudice, uphold economic, social, and political slavery, and then try to blame democracy because it is ineffective. They are muzzling the ox that treadeth out the corn. They are sapping the strength that is essential to produce the kind of government in which mankind desires to live. It is true, as you say, there may be many necessary economic reforms, but there can be no reform, there can be no progress without unity. Hence, let us stand together for the enactment of a real democracy by demanding an enactment of the Bill of Rights and by living the Constitution. Then it will be with the nation as it is under my personal jurisdiction, where all will have a full and a plenty. Though I am speaking in words, I am speaking louder in deeds and in actions, for I am proving that which I speak in the lives of millions. I am returning the enclosed buttons to you, as you will no doubt desire to use them, and if at any time you wish to attend any of our public or private mass meetings and speak on the subject of which you have written, or any other subject, so long as it is legitimate, you are welcome to do so. As I have said, I represent a real democracy where each person has the privilege of free speech, and if you feel you have something that would be beneficial to the masses, then under a real democracy you should enjoy the right to present your views to the public. For this cause, visiting guests and speakers are welcome to speak in our meetings, even as we do. With best wishes to you, and all who are concerned, this leaves me as I am, well, healthy, joyful, peaceful, lively, loving, successful, prosperous, and happy, in spirit, body, and mind, and in every organ, muscle, sinew, joint, limb, vein, and bone, and even in every atom, fiber, and cell of my bodily form. Respectfully and sincere, I am Reverend M.J. Devine, better known as Father Devine. Peace, the 18th of August, 1942, ADFD. Father Devine writing to Mr. T.J. Mason, representing the Department of Welfare, New York City. My dear Mr. Mason, I have your letter of the 11th acknowledging the sum of $75 your department received from one of my followers as voluntary reimbursement for past service rendered to her. My interest and the interest of Mrs. McNeil and the millions who have imbibed my spirit and my mind are summed up in our effort to bring about the complete liberation of the nation from economic, social, and political decay. If the present status of affairs in the nation is due to mismanagement, incompetency, disunity, and crime among the people as a whole, to bring about right conditions in the nation, a reversal to such tendencies and characteristics is demanded. The government of this great nation is in its infancy in comparison to the governments of the old world, and it is for this cause that we should cherish it and keep it free from the imperialism and tyranny of corrupt government. But it is sad to see how it is already polluted with the preconceived prejudices of men, and that our great institutions of the nation are defiled with the evil practices of men. Nevertheless, as sound as the doctrine is, so sound can the nation become to be, if each and every one individually would produce the nature and characteristics of true Americanism in his and her daily life. The philosophy of a real democracy is found in giving justice, not in trying to get it and refusing to give it. Too often we have heard men preach the golden rule, particularly in Congress, but little of it is measured out in reality. In advancing the perfection of a democracy through the spiritual regeneration of the hearts of men, you would think that I would have the cooperation of the officials, but not so. You would think, since I have mitigated vice and crime among millions and actually produced a real citizenry among them, that the leaders of the people would flock to me to get the solution to the problems of state and government, but not so. Racial prejudice, personal greed for power and wealth, and ignorant pride outbalance their will to fulfill the duties of the office they represent. The removal of my residence from the city of New York is due to the non-cooperation of the officials to institute justice where it is due. I do not act through any personal grievance, but if men do not want righteousness in the administration of city and state, if they do not want to recognize the Bill of Rights or the laws of justice and independence of this great democracy, it is their privilege to oppose our constitutional laws. But they jeopardize their position and impeach themselves accordingly, for they that are not for us are against us. Nevertheless, I say, because of the greedy hearts of men, because of their jealousy and hate, those who love liberty, righteousness, and truth shall not be deprived of their rights and privileges. They shall not be severed from the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness guaranteed them by the Constitution and by the Word of God. But as the prophecy declares, the wicked shall be severed from the just. With best wishes to you and all who are concerned, this leaves me well, healthy, joyful, peaceful, lively, loving, successful, prosperous, and happy in spirit, body, and mind, and in every organ, muscle, sinew, joint, limb, vein, and bone, and even in every atom, fiber, and cell of my bodily form. Respectfully and sincere, I am Reverend M.J. Devine, better known as Father Devine. Peace. The 22nd of October, 1944 ADFD. Father Devine writing to Dr. Randolph A. Wyman, Medical Superintendent of Metropolitan Hospital, New York City. My dear Mr. Wyman, I received your letter of the 17th advising me of the reimbursement of the sum of $100 made to your institution by a follower of mine for services she received 40 years ago. The obedience of my followers to the law of righteousness is not only evidenced in economic and industrial pursuits, but in all other fields of government. Millions have confidence in my word and are ready and willing to do the thing I command or request under the law. The refusal of the officials to accept the Christian names of my followers and their refusal to accept them as the American race, whatsoever their protest and whatsoever their pretext may be, we shall not submit to any law or ordinance less than the fundamental standards of democracy as set forth in the two great documents of the nation. Political chicanery does not go with me or mine. I came to wipe it out. I came to set the prisoners free, for men have long been prisoners to the corruptible systems of men and to their mortal versions of things. And as I set the people free, I shall set the nation free politically. My spiritual and unadulterated democratic influence among the people is already changing the habits and customs of men. Every letter I write conveys the perfection of the righteous government or pure democracy for which we stand. My ideas and opinions are going abroad. My judgments are respected among millions, and men know that I can speak and act with authority, for I am the fulfiller of the law, and my judgments are righteous and true. We shall have a righteous government, and it shall be established not by violence or physical coercion, but by the identical principles of the law for which we stand. Then I say, how can mortality stand against me? Men shall attract that which they believe in, hence they judge themselves under the law in which they live. All who stand with me shall eventually be as this leaves me, as I am well, healthy, joyful, peaceful, lively, loving, successful, prosperous, and happy in spirit, body, and mind, and in every organ, muscle, sinew, joint, limb, vein, and bone, and even in every atom, fiber, and cell of my bodily form. Respectfully and sincere, I am Reverend M.J. Devine, better known as Father Devine. And lastly for this installment, Peace, 23rd of July, 1942 ADFD, Father Devine writing to Miss Eva Barker of Point Pleasant, West Virginia. My dear Miss Barker, your letter of the 10th is at hand, together with the clipping which you enclosed. It is evident that my spirit and my mind are, in reality, as you say, active in the affairs of mankind. You no doubt will recall my messages of a very few years ago when I continued to stress, I shall have it universally just as I have it on my immediate staff if it costs me 1,000,000 bodies or $1 million a day. Yet the officials and other representatives of this government and other governments continued to ignore my demand for equality, liberty, and justice for all people. They continued to segregate and discriminate against those of various so-called races, colors, and creeds, until they have brought war, famine, pestilence, and destruction upon themselves. It is written, He that knoweth the law and doeth it not shall be beaten with many stripes. Not only has the law of God, through legality, been given unto this people, but I personally communicated with the nations of the earth, through their representatives to me and my correspondences to them, to cease aggression and acquire by purchase and arbitration whatsoever they desired to have. Yet they have turned a deaf ear to my pleadings and ignored my requests. Therefore it shall be to them as one that knoweth the law and doeth it not, one declared scripturally by inspiration. But ye have not obeyed the voice of the Lord your God, nor anything for which he hath sent me unto you. Now therefore know certainly that ye shall die by the sword, by famine, and by the pestilence, in the place whither ye desire to go and to sojourn. Then I say, because of my presence in this nation, America has been protected until now. But had I not come, and did I not shorten those days, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days are shortened. Nevertheless, though many shall continue to refuse to accept of righteousness, my spirit and my mind have awakened my own, and they are beginning to walk in my statutes. Excerpts from speeches and articles written of recent date by those of officials and others in the public eye prove the tremendous effect this great contagion of the unity of spirit, of mind, of aim, and of purpose is having upon the hearts and minds of those who are endeavoring to be real, true American citizens. Consciously or unconsciously, I am working through those in authority, and even through the First Lady of this land, to stress equality of so-called races, colors, and creeds, equality of opportunity, equality of education, and liberty to participate in the government by the elimination of all such barriers as the poll tax, and actually living according to the life and teachings of Jesus Christ. Thus, by the transmission of my spirit and my mind, I have accomplished my endeavors, and I shall continue to do so until all humanity shall have the opportunity to become to be even as this leaves me, as I am well, healthy, joyful, peaceful, lively, loving, successful, prosperous, and happy in spirit, body, and mind, and in every organ, muscle, sinew, joint, limb, vein, and bone, and even in every atom, fiber, and cell of my bodily form. Respectfully and sincere, I am Reverend M.J. Devine, better known as Father Devine. P.S. I am releasing the clipping to the New Day in the event that others who read it may see as you have the Spirit of God working in the affairs of men. Reverend M.J.D. We thank you, Father and Mother Divine.